Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Tales of Tigrosa. I'm your host, Sydney Foltz, and today I am joined by the so legendary, so iconic, divinely epic Daniela Gil, who is tuning in also from the Sacred Valley of Peru, just on the other side of the mountain. Welcome to the podcast, Daniela.
Thank you, love. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! And we are so happy to have you here. You are the first official guest on the podcast. And
Wow.
honestly, it is truly an honor to have you here today. For those of you who are tuning in and don't know this epic woman, Daniela Gil is an Akashic Records channeler, mentor, and teacher. And honestly, in my opinion, she is a highly respected and devoted channel of God. She hosts epic online trainings. She reads beautiful Akashic Records readings for you personally. She is not only my mentor and my teacher, but she is my dear friend and soul sister and a true gift to this earth. I swear, Daniela Gil is truly a master in her craft, which is channeling and embodying the Akashic Records, and it is truly an honor to have her on today. If you're curious about my experience with Daniela's trainings and my experience with the Akashic Records and how I got to know Daniela, you can check out the Akashic episode a few episodes back. But today we have the honor and pleasure of getting to hear all about how the Akashic Records has changed Daniela's life, how she embodies the Akashic Records, what are the Akashic Records to her, and all that juicy stuff. So, Daniela, thank you again for coming on and welcome to the podcast.
I love you so much, Sydney. Thank you.
I love
Mm,
you too. It's amazing to have you here. So, we're
mm,
just going to dive right in. And the first question I want to ask is, in your words, Daniela Gil, what are the Akashic Records?
The Akashic Records are the energetic imprint of everything that has ever happened, is happening, and could happen. Akasha is the Sanskrit word for ethers or space. So the Akashic records are the recording of matter within space. It is the remembrance of everything that has been, is, or could be.
When you open the records, do you feel like you're entering the mind of God?
In some ways, yes. When I open the records, I feel the elevation and expansion of my consciousness, and I can actually sense these little tingles in the crown of my head. And I can feel that divine frequency. When I say divine frequency, I refer to an energy that feels like love. It feels like possibility. It brings peace. It restores faith. It opens the heart. It feels like divinity to me. I feel that energy. And then the messages, the insights, everything that I see and feel and receive from within that space has that same feeling tone to it.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely. So when you tune into the Akashic Records, how does it work? How do you tune in?
I tune in by saying a prayer. And as I say the prayer, I feel the change in my consciousness. And then I simply allow myself to receive guidance, insight, energy, and I channel it into verbal communication if I'm sharing an Akashic record reading with somebody else.
That's really beautiful. And is this prayer something you channeled yourself?
It is. When I first started my Akashic Records reading practice, the prayer came through me almost immediately.
Wow, that's amazing. And how long have you been channeling the Akashic Records?
For 9 years now.
9 years. Oh my gosh, that's almost a decade.
Yeah.
How has embodying and attuning and listening to the guidance the Akashic Records has given you changed your life?
It has brought so much more peace, well-being, and health on all levels into my life. Physical health, emotional health, mental health, and spiritual health. It has made me really aware of different limiting beliefs that I've carried and then how they've manifested into my experience of life. And it's helped me restore this sense of possibility, this remembrance that there's actually so much possible for us in this experience of life. And it's also restored to me my relationship with God, where it has catalyzed this deep faith in God and this remembrance that God is love and that God loves me and God wants to support me. And from there, so many other remembrances have occurred, like the realization that I'm never a victim of anything. And every life circumstance, even the most challenging ones, are serving me in some way. They all carry gifts and blessings for me and are serving the evolution of my soul. I would say it has made life a lot smoother, a lot easier, a lot more joyful. A lot of the messages that come through are around not taking life so seriously. And when I go really deep into the Akashic Records, I see the nature of life and of reality as infinite and eternal. So it's like this, it gives rise to the sense of feeling like I'm living on this divine playground. Like it's just play. It's not that serious. The soul lives on. We're simply creating. It's like an adventure that the soul has gone on. And there's truly so much possible for us. And at the end of the day, what matters most is love. It's our relationships because
Yeah.
we're all one. And what lasts is the impacts that we have on other souls. The Akashic Records are also continuously reminding me of our inherent oneness, the fact that we all come from the same God, from the same spirit, and within every other being is, in some ways, it's another me. While this experience of individuation and separation is so real on the human level, at a spirit level, the Akashic Records reveals that at the end of the day, we all come home to the one in the death of our bodies and the death of our souls. We all return home to God as one. That awakens so much love, trust, a sense of unity with life, which brings a lot of peace. It also enables forgiveness, compassion, because you start to see also the innocence within every human
Yeah.
being. So things like resentment don't even make sense anymore. It's changed my life in an infinite number of ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. One thing that I feel really inspired by you as a friend is like your ability to just take these leaps, even if it doesn't make logical sense to the mind, like just hearing your stories and hearing, the crazy leaps you've taken through life through the guidance of the Akashic Records is just so inspiring. And I feel like for me, it's allowed me to come into that space of, like you said, like divine playground of God and just kind of have let go of the seriousness and limitations of life and just take a chance on yourself, take a chance on God, take a chance on life. And I've watched it for you open up so many doors of really stepping into those infinite potentials and possibilities for your life that now are a reality for your life. And I can say the same for myself. And so, with that, I'd love to dive into what would you say has been the biggest life challenge that you've overcome by listening to the guidance of the Akashic Records?
Two come to mind. The first one is that I healed an autoimmune disease that I had been struggling with for years. I had been seeing naturopaths as well as conventional doctors to heal, and it felt like it like I was so determined to heal it, but it wasn't healing, and I didn't feel very encouraged by the doctors that I was seeing, even the naturopath. When I began opening up the Akashic Records, I saw that a lot of what I was doing, like following a really strict regimen with my diet and taking all these supplements, was actually not the optimal, most effective, efficient, and quick path to my healing. The Akashic Records allowed me to really trust that I could heal, which was something that I wasn't receiving from the naturopaths, that confidence that I could heal. And I started to realize, oh, I actually can heal this. And the path is actually more along the lines of regulating my nervous system. And the Akashic Records gave so much guidance around how I could start healing. The first one was to stop the strict regimen with my diet, which actually wasn't relevant to my soul's evolution because I saw that my soul had already lived with such austerity for so many lifetimes that this
Mhm.
life was more about like trusting the deliciousness of life and trusting as I consume Pachamama's fruits and her love and restoring the sense of trust with life and like receiving all that I consume as love. So the Akashic Records cut out the diet, even though every health practitioner recommended it to heal the autoimmune disease. And then the Akashic Records had me focus on connecting to the energy of love and peace and tranquility because that was the state my body needed to abide in more often in order to heal and regenerate itself. I had been in more of a fight or flight, stressed out response without even realizing it. I was living in LA at the time. I was working a lot. See, I just felt very normal, the state that I was in. But the Akashic Records told me that when you're healing and something that has already manifested as a disease, you really have to come into deep states of rest. And I wasn't letting myself because I felt that I had to be productive. I had to get things done. I had to make money. I had to take care of myself. But really what was most important at that time was my health. So the Akashic Records just got everything super clear for me so that I could take the steps to heal. And within a few months, I felt so much better. And I don't remember the exact timeline, but I would say within a year or 18 months, I got tested again. The autoimmune disease was completely gone, no
Wow.
trace. So much so that the practitioner I went to, which was a different one, I told him that I had had an autoimmune disease, and he was like, "Oh, that must have been a mistake." Like, yeah, I was like, "All right, I don't need to prove anything to you." Um, but so that was one. And then the other one was that my entire life I had lived in lack related to finances and money. And I felt so stuck in that cycle of lack. And the Akashic Records gave me very direct and clear guidance around how to create financial prosperity for myself. And it worked
Mm.
so fast. I would say it worked within 3 months. I started to feel abundant financially for the first time in my entire life, where I was living in LA at the time where I felt like I could grocery shop at Erewhon, like whatever I wanted and and travel if I wanted. And at the time before then, I had been living at my brother's rent free. That's how much I was struggling financially. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, after 3 months, I'm booking trips to Tulum. The shift was so fast. So I would say those two were pretty big miraculous shifts that occurred within my first year of working within the Akashic Records.
Wow, that's pretty incredible, honestly. And first of all, kudos to you and like commending you for like listening to that guidance and for trusting in the divine's word for you and the divine's path for you. And so I'm really curious, you were talking about how things shifted for you abundantly. Do you remember one piece of advice or one piece of guidance that the record specifically had for you to help break free from that limitations of scarcity and lack and truly like step into that expansive abundant state?
Yes, I had a big social circle at that time. I was living in a big city, and the guidance I received was to give either $100 or $100 gift to every birthday party that I went to. And I was continuously going to birthday parties, and I was so broke at the time that I would buy the cheaper salt at Whole Foods. Like I was penny pinching. So that guidance to me made absolutely no sense, but I listened and I did it. And there's something around the spirit of generosity that on a subconscious level, it like rewires, it reconditions your subconscious to believe you're abundant. If you're that generous, your subconscious is like, it just assumes, oh, I'm that generous because I'm abundant. You can't be generous and also in lack. I received really positive responses from people who then started projecting in my direction the idea, the belief that I am abundant. And for whatever reason, my own wounding related to abundance, I needed that confirmation from others, that feeling from others of a feeling that I was abundant, that I was financially prosperous. And it created a flow. I had to drop into a deeper trust in order to allow like so many random hundreds, like $100 gifts to just flow through me when I had nothing. That trust opened me in ways, in places where I didn't even realize I was subconsciously closed. It just aligned me with the spirit of abundance and the stream of abundance. I
Mm.
was also guided to give a woman money who I didn't even know for her to go to a retreat once I actually had $5,000. I probably had like $5,000 in the bank at that point, and I was like, woohoo, I have my first 5K in the bank saved that I made all by myself. Um, And then I was guided to give it away, to give it away. And it was like little by little, the flow of money was opening. And when I gave that away, it just like really opened up the floodgates for money to stream in. There was something around the resistance to even spending so much that was keeping my energetic financial channels more contracted. So I was guided to just open them. And it also made me feel like it just changed my relationship to money at subconscious levels in ways where my human mind would have never come up with that guidance ever in a million years. It made no sense. And I remember my heart was pounding at times when I was like giving money away because I was so conditioned with the broke mentality. But it liberated me and
Wow.
fast.
It's funny because when you shared that story, I like felt that like crunch in my stomach and I was like, my God, like, but it's like, what a leap of trust. What a leap of trust. And it's also too like we think about it and scarcity is it's such a small contracted feeling. But like when we give and when we participate in reciprocity, which is the natural way of this earth, the planet that we've chosen to live on, it really does open up this expansive door for more to come through. So I feel like your story in this is just a beautiful embodiment of that.
Yes, I also got to know at that time. I remember the guidance that continuously would come through was to treat money like monopoly money. And I got to know how limited and distorted the human, like the collective human mind's relationship to money had become. And I was guided to see money more as love, as energy, and to see that money flows into my life when I offer a service that's valuable to others. That's a way of loving people and sharing my gifts. And it brings fulfillment not only to me, but to those that I serve. So it's beautiful to earn money. And then anytime you're spending money, it's not that you have less, it's that you're investing in another human being. You're circulating it in their direction in a way that is supporting their lives. And it's also a way of valuing their offering, their energy, which is another form of love. We're supporting each other through this exchange of money. So I was guided to see money as love and money as energy and to treat it like monopoly money, like to kind of disperse some of the charge that I had around it because I also grew up in a home where money was not too abundant.
Yeah. It sounds like to me, like even just taking these leaps with money is like doing wonders for your lineage and for your ancestors, like creating a new story for the ones of your lineage yet to come. So that's amazing. It's like you're not only
Mm.
doing this work for yourself and the people you're supporting, but your family as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and for the world, I feel like the money that we earn through love, through a service that benefits others and doesn't like harm or extract from others and doesn't harm the earth, and then we spend it with the spirit of love and generosity and that open-heartedness, that's helping to restore the spirit of abundance and generosity and unity consciousness on the planet.
Love that. Working with money in a way to restore unity within this planet. Like, I see that. And again, it comes back to like that reciprocity, that even exchange, right? And also having that charge of love with your money. Because when you give money with love, when you spend money with love, when you spend money with excitement about your investment, it's like that energy just naturally comes back to you. And so it's creating this incredible energetic sphere of just like love, abundance, prosperity, growth, expansion, anything is possible. And so, personally, for me, the records have guided me to take very big leaps that maybe make no sense to my logical mind, but somehow they encourage me to take these leaps. And every time I've taken them, they were right. Like, so much opened up, so much expansion happened, like, so much growth, so much evolution, so much transformation. And so, I just wanted to ask you, like, what has been the biggest, edgiest, scariest leap that the records have asked you to take that may have not made logical sense, but were definitely a huge benefit for your growth and evolution?
First, can I ask you about what leaps you've taken?
Yeah,
You'd
yeah.
feel to share?
Yeah. So, talking about money and abundance, I was so broke not too long ago, and I had been wanting to host a retreat for a really long time. And I was looking at all of these retreat centers, like all of them. Like I looked at 10 different centers. And of course, me being a Taurus, my luxurious, beautiful, brilliant being decided to invest in the most expensive, luxurious retreat center. Shout out Casa Raiz. They're amazing. Go check them out. And it just felt like this full body yes, even though the records were like, girl, this is your first retreat, you got like this much audience, like you're just starting out. Not the records, my mind was saying this. They were like, my mom was like, girl, you sure you go and do this? Like, this is a big investment, this is everything you have. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, I'm totally gonna call in 9 women. And I needed 3 to make my money back. And I only got 2 and I was freaking out. Like, I remember the week before the retreat, I was like, oh my God, I only have 2. I've got like $100 in my bank account. I was like, I need X amount to make this work. Like, I was like, God, help me. I had like the final like money that I owed Casarais was due like that week. And I remember I was like asking the records and they were like, you just need to trust and keep going for it. Like you need to dedicate, devote, show up for this. And I was like asking them, I was like, well, should I like cancel and like rent a smaller place and change the retreat? And they were like, nope, you're doing it right here. And so I remember we got so close to the retreat and it was like 2 days before the retreat. And I was like, God, I need 3K to make this work. Like I got people to pay, like what's happening? And they just kept saying, trust, trust, trust. And a couple days before this happened, a family member reached out and was like, hey, I want to support you. How can I support you? And they loaned me the money I needed to make it happen. And so I did the retreat. It was amazing. And then I had to pay them back. And I had like 50 soles to my name, which is like less than $20. And I had rent due in a week. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make this work? And then I felt like through that devotion of like truly devoting to service, staying with the retreat, like staying with my prayers, staying with the trust in the records, the person that I had hopped on a call with who wanted to come and work with me, she had like ghosted me for like 3 weeks. She was like a yes on the call and then never like paid. I followed up with her twice. And then all of a sudden she paid in full and joined me for a 3-month program. And she's continuously investing in me. And since then, I have gained more people's like trust to come and invest in my work. And now I'm doing the best I ever have in my business. And it was like, and the retreat was amazing. The 2 women who came, I remember I was like, I'm acting like I'm getting paid $1 million for this. Like, I'm going to show up for these women. It doesn't matter if I don't even know how I'm going to make my rent in a week. Like, I'm just going to do it and show up and give in full service. And I felt like because I was stretched so far beyond my edge, but I just did it anyways. And I moved through that edge and I stayed devoted to my service. Like, that opened up a sense of trust in the universe of like, okay, this girl is really on her mission. And it just opened up more abundance and prosperity in my life. So
Wow.
yeah, that was like personally the biggest leap I've taken. Now I've only really been deeply working with the records for a year and a half now, but yeah, I feel like still they're like, pushing the edge a little bit in many different ways. But every time I move beyond that edge with love and trust, like so much growth and evolution comes back, so much expansion, so much unfolds. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Amazing. I love the way the Akashic Records call us to trust and remind us to trust and allow us to trust because in our trust, so much opens up for us. Oftentimes we're freaking out, and then that worry, that fear is a prayer within itself where it emanates an energy that impacts our future reality. And when there's trust, when there's peace, we can remain connected to our well being, to our joy, to our service, to the ways in which we actually want to be showing up in life. And then we open up the pathways to receive whatever it is that we need or could have been freaking out about. So it's such a beautiful story. Thank you, Sydney.
Yeah. And is there a story you feel called to share about a leap that you took that maybe made
There
no
have been
sense?
so many. There have been so many over the years. I almost feel like Spirit was, when I reflect back, I feel like Spirit was almost testing me at the beginning, like how much can you trust this guidance? Because some of the messages were really far out. One that comes to mind is, and I would follow through, and it was always anytime I followed through, like miracles would ensue after that. One of them was that I think it was like a Monday, and I received the guidance to fly to Crete on Thursday, the Greek island Crete, and I had no plans to go to Greece. It didn't really make any sense. I had no idea why I was going, but I went and I experienced a soul remembrance of having been a highly gifted oracle on the island of Crete. There was something about the frequencies of that land that activated me, and I was so activated in my psychic gifts during my time there. I spent about 3 months there. that on it was like one of my last weeks on the island, I met some Greek friends and I was at the beach with them and they asked me what I do. And I told them, and one of them jokingly was like, "Can you guess our birthdays?" And somehow I guessed everyone's birthday except one person because I was undergoing such a major upgrade in my psychic gifts. And I told them to think about their birthdays, and the telepathy was so loud. And the person whose birthday I didn't get right was the last person. But by that point, everyone was screaming. And it was so much energy in the fields that I could not focus. I started to get overwhelmed. I was too excited at that point. So I just guessed the last person's birthday wrong. But everyone before that, I got their birthday. It was a major, major upgrade. And it sounded random. I didn't know anyone in Crete. I didn't have any reason to be there. But I needed to be in solitude that summer, and I needed to connect with that land to experience the full extent of the past life soul remembrance. It was like
Mm.
a soul reclamation of lifetimes I've lived on Crete where I was a deeply gifted oracle. So the Akashic Records knew that it was going to support me in my work and in my service, and it sounded random, and I did it, and it was a wild time. I was like in full psychic
Yeah.
openness by the end of my time there. And I would not have experienced that had I been in LA that summer, or I think I was visiting my brother in New York City when I received the message. So if I'd stayed there, I just never would have experienced that upgrade.
Wow, that's incredible. And I totally see you as like a divine, like Greek goddess priestess oracle. Like that was definitely a past life of yours. I can smell it on you.
Yeah, I
Wow.
feel the remembrances sometimes.
Yeah, that's pretty epic. And so, hey, if anyone's listening to this and you're thinking about you're getting a call to just book that trip or go somewhere, permission slip to do it. You might just reveal magical past lives that live within you or activate your gifts in a whole new way or yeah, just trust that there's a beautiful gift waiting on the other side of the leap that God's asking you to take. So yeah, that's really amazing. And that's a really beautiful segue into my next question that I want to ask. So what would you say, like, what do the records reveal about our soul's evolution across lifetimes?
I mean, my first thought was that it's constantly evolving, and this experience of life is infinite and eternal. So we get to direct that evolution towards God if we want, towards love, towards the remembrance of unity. And doing so offers us the most beautiful possible experience of this life. It's when we grow closer to God that we then are more receptive to all of God's blessings of peace, of also creative power, creative possibility, not being so limited by the ideas and beliefs of society, the people around us, or our past experiences, and instead opening to what is truly possible in this experience of life, which is far more expansive than what most human beings are aware of. And through the recognition of what is possible, we get to live into what is possible. And we get to create, like, we get to live a beautiful experience here where our lives are filled with love and well being, and where we're playing and experiencing more joy. And in moments of hardship, we are protected by our trust in God, which makes everything so much easier.
Yeah. Amen, sister. I totally feel you on that. Like as soon as I started trusting God, things got a lot easier. And I was able to see too, like how we as humans sometimes can make things harder than they are, you know? It's like it can just be so silly sometimes. And yeah, I loved what you said about, this aspect of creation. Like God is the creator and creation is infinite and we were gifted these abilities to create. And I believe that like when we create, we're creating from God's will. We're creating from God's gifts and our creations create and those gifts create. And it's just like an ever eternal world of creation. And so I want to ask if God is the creator, what role do the Akashic records play in creation?
Hmm. I feel that the Akashic records are revealing creation. They are reflecting creation. They are offering us insight into the nature of reality and helping us in some ways awaken out of the delusions and distortions of our human mind so that we can connect with a higher or a deeper truth and begin to see life from a higher perspective, see ourselves from a higher perspective, and then relate to life from this perspective.
And if you were to describe higher perspective to like an 8-year-old, how would you put it in the most simplest words?
It is the perspective that can see so much more than the limited human lens can see. If a human mind is limited by its past experiences, by the way that human has been conditioned, by like what that person has been told life is, what the limits are of this life, what it believes about itself. In a higher perspective, you rise up and out of that identity, and your perspective comes closer to the perspective of God. So you begin to access thoughts and insights that are, you could call them more divine in nature. They're not as shaped by the limited human mind, and
Mhm.
they're more connected to the divine mind. It's like a bird's eye view.
Yeah,
You can like
bird's eye view.
you see it all versus like what the human personality sees, which is really limited.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And definitely like ever since my spiritual awakening and stepping on this path, I feel like I've just been gifted that remembrance of that higher perspective.
Mm.
Of really being able to zoom out and see things from a space of love, from a space of trust, from a space of infinite possibility, and being able to move and like play this game of life from that perspective. I swear, y'all, it's life changing.
Really is. It transforms our perspective and our relationship to pretty much anything that occurs in our lives. Like if we have a relationship challenge and we feel wronged in some way and we feel hurt, a pretty prevalent human response on the planet right now is to harbor resentment and to get really angry and to play the victim and to hate the other and maybe even start some sort of war with the other. But as soon as you have a higher perspective, you're able to see where that person's actions and behavior came from. And you see the hurt and the innocence from which it arose. And then you also gain access to understanding your role in that dynamic, which many of us can't see because our ego blocks us from seeing it, especially if there's shame or there's pride. With a higher perspective, you can see it all.
Mhm.
So we don't hold on to resentment or hatred. We're less likely to start wars with people when we can see things from a higher perspective. And I feel that people underestimate how much holding on to resentment impacts their health. From the Akashic Records perspective, it's one of the biggest causes of cancer. It's like not processing fully the emotions in our body and not abiding in this deeper state of unity and trust. We inherently cannot access unity consciousness if we are hating someone and at war with them. And it's become so prevalent. Higher perspective wakes us up out of it. It doesn't mean we won't have relationship challenges. It doesn't mean we won't have anger arise, but it does mean we won't like harbor it in our body for a lifetime. It then gets to flow.
Yeah.
That higher perspective really helps with that. And one way in which the higher perspective of the Akashic Records really helped me when I first started was that one of my college best friends had recently committed suicide. And it felt so tragic and so awful and so terrible. But when I saw it from a higher perspective, I saw that the soul lives on. And honestly, I saw so many beautiful things related to her suicide, which sounds crazy to say out loud. But that's my truth. I had been holding on to a lot of sadness around it, and I felt her spirit reminding me of this time where she took psychedelic mushrooms at a Halloween party, and she was having a really bad time. She was like freaking out, and we were all trying to help her. And she was like, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go. Let's meet for brunch tomorrow. And we were like, all right, let's see each other for brunch tomorrow. And she left. And then so she came through, like her spirit came through and she was like, do you remember that Halloween party? I was having a bad time and I left. She's like, that's kind of what happened. I was having a bad time on earth. So I left, but like, I'll see you on the other side. Like, I'm thriving, I'm good. Like, we'll get together for brunch when you die. It was kind of like she was making light of the situation, her spirit was. And I started to see the beauty in death, that every death is actually a rebirth. It's not what we
Mm,
think it is. Every death is actually a rebirth. So I reconnected with the part of me that could celebrate her rebirth and trust where she's at, which is a heavenly realm, a communion with God, a place of so much love and peace, and trust that that is exactly what she needed, and that things in life don't happen randomly. When there's an accident, even when there's a suicide, there's actually a divine place for it. And it
yeah.
was my own human mind that was judging it as bad and wrong and tragic and should not have happened. But the reality is that if it's happening, it's because the divine is allowing it and it has its place. And it served deeply. The Akashic Records also showed me what a service her suicide was. It broke our entire friend group's hearts open to so much more love and compassion. And collectively, we all had a spiritual awakening when she
Wow.
committed suicide. So it also served. And these were all things that I wasn't seeing. I just wasn't seeing until I opened the Akashic Records, asked about it, and then was flooded with all of this. And then peace, was able to heal the pain around that experience and trust that God's got her. Like
Yeah.
God has got her. Yes, from the human perspective, it's awful and terrible. And from another perspective, all is well. She's okay. We're all okay. We've all died a million times before, and we'll die a million times more.
Yeah. Yeah. That it's again like coming back to like life is ever eternal. Like it's not just this one life in this body. Like it's everything. It's continuous. And I'm really like, thank you for letting us in on that experience too. It feels really special. And it's
Mm.
reminding me of how the Akashic Records has supported me in my relationship with death. And specifically with a family member who's currently transitioning right now, and it's like the records have reminded me that like her soul has chosen the date, her soul has chosen the way to go, and that's between her and God. It has nothing to do with me, it has nothing to
Yeah.
do with my family, like it has nothing to do with anyone. And it's like to hold her in that love and that honor and that reverence and that respect that her human is bringing her soul to that contract that she created with God. And I remember it was like once I was able to like really embody that, it like set me free
Mm.
from some of like the anger I was holding on to of this situation. And it allowed me to become like a greater ally to her soul and a greater ally to her human to help support her in this transition. Yeah, that's really beautiful what you shared. And yeah, death is such a funny thing. So many people are so afraid of it, but really like death brings so many gifts. So many gifts.
It's such a part of nature.
It
Yes.
is. It is. It is the way of nature. Like, yeah, we can't escape it. So Daniela, why is it important now more than ever to open up the Akashic records to listen and embody the divine guidance that's coming through for humanity right now?
Because if we listen to other people, if we listen to the news, if we are influenced by the streams of consciousness that are moving through humanity right now, we will probably become either anxious or stressed out, miserable. There are so many thoughts being thrown around humanity that would have us freak out if we believed it. We would not be living our best lives. We would not be in peace. We would not be thriving. It would affect our physical health. It would affect our relationships. When we develop access to the Akashic records, we develop a certain immunity to the limiting beliefs and the distorted perspectives that are so prevalent on the planet right now. That is just the reality. There's been a widespread spiritual amnesia where we have disconnected from God and disconnected from these higher truths. And so people are operating in really distorted ways with hatred, with a lot of fear, with violence, violence towards the planet, violence towards each other. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot going
There's a
on.
lot going on.
There's so much going on. And if we don't have access to the Akashic Records, we're going to be like swept away by all of it. And it's going to rule our lives and it's going to take up space in our minds and it's going to affect our emotions and we will not be well. So, in order to thrive at this time, in order to be healthy, happy, we need to grow closer to God. One of the best ways, in my opinion, to do that is through developing access to the Akashic Records, because then you can prioritize this higher truth, which develops an immunity to all the thoughts that could have you like fall from that truth and experience anxiety or despair or think that this world is going down or whatever it is that's going on. And the more people we have accessing the Akashic Records and living accordingly, the more this consciousness grows on the planet. And we are all impacting each other because we're all interconnected on a soul level. It's like from the higher perspective, we share a collective consciousness. We're all impacted by the collective consciousness. So the restoration of our connection to divinity, our access to these higher perspectives, these higher truths, and then living accordingly, that creates, that emanates an energy. It impacts consciousness and it impacts the people around us and humanity as a whole.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. And I feel like, 20 years ago, we may not have even heard about the Akashic Records, but now it's getting more and more familiar. And I feel like it's pollinating and it's really awakening those people. I feel like people's channels are really awakening now more than ever. And people are stepping into that confidence and guidance of like, oh yeah, like I do feel like I'm a channel for a higher guidance that's beyond my human self. And so yeah, like shouts out to the people who are doing
Mm.
it. Shouts out to you. Shouts out to everyone who's like channeling the records and devoting to this practice and teaching others how to do it. It's incredible. And yeah, it's like when I think about the Akashic Records, it just brings us back to sovereignty. It brings us back to that creator energy. It opens up, like every time I go into the records, I am restored with safety, trust, and love. And I can like do my day from that energy and from that space. And it does ripple. Like you said, it does expand out into our communities. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I also wanted to ask, have you noticed recently that there's maybe one collective message that keeps coming through the records lately for humanity in general?
I would say it's exactly what I just shared, which is around cultivating our relationship to God or our access to the Akashic Records so that we can live from this sovereignty and create these beautiful lives, live from this wisdom instead of being influenced by the people or the world at large, because it just is so messy right now in many ways.
Yeah. Prayers for humanity. Prayers for us. We got this, guys. That's really beautiful. And so I'd love to open up an opportunity if you feel called and if you feel comfortable. Would you be open to sharing an Akashic transmission to all the listeners of this episode?
I would love to. Yeah, let me tune into the Akashic Records with my prayer. Spirit, support me in coming into an elevated, expanded state of consciousness so that I may be one with your perspective. Set aside the totality of my personality so that I may serve as a clear channel for your divine love, insight, and guidance. Allow me to see all who are listening to this podcast as they are seen in the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to know them as they are known in the mind of God and enable me to share the message that is most relevant for those who are listening to this podcast with clarity and with love. And so it is. The Akashic Records are now open. So the first thing that I heard was a little bit unexpected. It was around It's a message around the spirit of love. And I saw a vision pointing to the heart and the power of the heart, and an invitation for you to get to know the power of love and the power of the heart. It is one of the most underestimated powers at this time. It can bring forth so much healing. It can call forth a restoration of our creative potential so that we can live according to our creative potential versus the patterns of the past or of karmic loops. There's a fire within the heart where it can burn away and transmute that within you which does not serve you, whether it's beliefs, thoughts, energies that may be holding you back from living with all of your love, from being fully expressed, from being creatively expressed. And there is so much in the power of the heart. It also brings forth forgiveness. And when we are endowed with forgiveness, we can live in the present, because lack of forgiveness keeps us stuck in the past and actually has us keep those energies from the past in the present and then bringing them into the future, where we then destine ourselves to relive those experiences. So the heart brings a forgiveness that allows all of the possibilities of a beautiful life to open. It allows us to create new experiences, new life circumstances for ourselves. Forgiveness allows us to dream. We can dream what we would love to experience and then actually experience it, actually live it, because we are not held back by the past. So I feel like the message is it's around love, the power of the heart, and forgiveness, and to focus there, because sometimes focusing on love is the most effective way to move forward in our lives, to heal in ways that maybe we didn't even know we needed healing in order to be anchored into this sense of well-being as we walk upon this planet. And there's another message coming through around knowing that you can thrive here, even if you never have, even if you've never really felt that great here on the planet, you can thrive. You can open to love. You can open to healing. You can open to possibility. And God will be there for you to support you on your path so that you may thrive in this experience of life, fully enjoy it. There's so much to be received here, to enjoy, to delight in. We don't need to take life so seriously, and we can release ideas of life being like endless suffering, because there's also so much joy here and so much to delight in. So this message is around opening to that possibility and inviting in the spirits of joy, the spirits of well-being into your life, even if you haven't been living in them or perhaps never have as fully as you would like. Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I could like feel the like Akashic, like spacious love, like as you were relaying that message. And yeah, for me, like what it hit personally, if I could wrap it up in like a sentence and be like moving from victim to creator, instead of being a victim from your reality, how can we be a creator? How can we create from this space? So yeah, thanks so much for like taking the time to just share that beautiful transmission. Wow, I like feel like I'm in the Akashic right now. I'm like a little like, whoa.
Me too.
Yeah. Well.
Definitely feel it.
So beautiful, Daniela. How can these beautiful humans experience your magic and your offerings?
Well, I have an online training called Akashic Metamorphosis, where I teach practitioners how to access and channel the Akashic Records. We dive into a portion around utilizing the Akashic Records to bring healing and transformation into your personal life, and then how to share Akashic Record readings with others. And then we dive into God-led business development. So you're invited into the training, and I also share one-on-one Akashic record readings. I would absolutely love to share with you. It's one of my all-time favorite things in the world to do, and it can be it can really shift the trajectory of our lives to receive that Akashic perspective. So it would be my honor to share a reading with you. And I also host retreats here in Peru.
Yay. And when's your next retreat?
November 8th to the 15th in 2025.
Amazing.
Mhm.
For those of you who are listening and have also received Akashic record readings from me, this lady's my teacher. So, if you vibe with her, if you vibe with me and you're looking to dive deeper into the Akashic records, cannot recommend Daniela as a teacher and a reader enough.
Mm.
So with that, I'll have the link to her website and her socials in the description below so you can check her out. And before we close, Daniela, is there anything you'd like to share?
I loved this. It was so fun to share with you. I adore you, Sydney. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you
Oh.
to all our listeners.
Thank you guys. We love you. And if you're vibing with this episode, subscribe, follow, give me that thumbs up. It helps get this podcast and all the future podcast episodes to more ears, more listeners, and it gives your girl some love. So thank you all so much for listening. Thank you again, Daniela, for taking the time to share with us today. And yeah, I'll see you guys next episode. Have a beautiful day, everyone.